Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're making a cute little simple bralette that is extremely beginner friendly, but you do use decreases, so it's like slightly more advanced than like a very simple tutorial where you just do like one stitch. So starting off with materials, we have weight for acrylic yarn. This is loops and threads, a 4.25mm hook, scissors, and a darning needle. Also, I completely forgot to mention that I will be kind of explaining how to do the stitches, but not 100%. So if you still need to learn the stitches, you can check out my ultimate beginner tutorial because I show how to do all of them, and that will prepare you for doing this video. So just practice with that video and then come back to this. For our first row, we're going to be doing foundation single crochets, and we're going to do these so that it reaches either from like the entire front side of the top or a little bit further to the back. It just depends like how wide you want the top to be, because the like bust section will cover as much as it needs even if you do a smaller section for this. So you're going to start off by chaining 2, going into the side of the first chain, pulling through once, going through once, and then going through. And we're going to continue this all the way until it reaches that length. So even though for this top we are working from the bottom up, you still want this width to be able to cover basically as if you were at the top, because we're only doing decreases for this top. We don't ever do any increases, and so this width is going to be the same width that your like cup section is going to be. Do remember that it will stretch, but you want it to be long enough that it does cover everything you need to cover and that you're not like cutting it too close. So if you're like unsure if you should do a couple more or not, I would say just do like 5 more and then you should probably be good. But again, hold it up all the way at the top where the top of your bust section would be, instead of checking where like the bottom of the bralette would be, because that is where it's important how wide it is. And at the end of this row, we're chaining 3, turning, and we're going to skip the first stitch and double crochet into the second one. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next, and we're going to do that this entire row and the next 2 rows. So we're going to have 3 rows total of these double crochet chain 1 gaps. And at the end of the row, you're just going to chain 1 and double crochet into that last stitch. Then you're going to chain 3, turn your work and double crochet into the double crochet. Chain 1, skip, and double crochet into the next double crochet. So we're never going to double crochet into gaps, just into the next double crochet. Repeating that the entire row. And then on your last one, you're going to do that double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet into the gap. Then you're going to chain 3 and do the exact same thing. Double crocheting into the double crochets and skipping those chains in between. Doing a chain between each of your double crochets. And then coming up to the last, we're going to do that double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet into the gap. Now we're going to move on to non-gap rows. So we're going to chain 2 instead of 3, turn our work, and we're going to double crochet into the chain, into the double crochet, into the chain, and into the double crochet. So just repeating double crocheting into every stitch, but we are not crocheting into the gaps, we're double crocheting into the actual chain itself. And this is the last row that we're doing before we start actually making the bust section. So I would just check one more time that this does have enough coverage to fit just like you want it to. When you reach the end of the row, you're going to double crochet into that double crochet, but pause before you double crochet into the chain. What you're going to do next is just count every single double crochet that you have, including these 2 chains at the end. So I have 48 double crochets. If I'd had an odd number, I would do 1 double crochet into this gap. But since I have an even number, I'm going to do 2 double crochets into the gap. The reason it matters whether you have an odd or an even number is because you want each cup to be the same number of stitches, and if it's an odd number, they won't be even. Okay, I'm coming in a voiceover, just adding in something I forgot to explain. Basically, the pattern that I do works for any number that you have for this like half of your total number thing. However, if your number is lower than mine, you're gonna reach the end of the top faster than I do. And if you have a number that's bigger than mine, I'm gonna reach the end of the top before you do. So essentially, if you have a number that's smaller than mine, once you reach 7 stitches, you're gonna pause and skip to the chapter in the video where it says like second to last row. If your number is bigger than mine, then once I reach that point, you're just gonna keep doing those decreases on both sides for however many more rows you have, and then you can unpause the video and continue with that 6 or 7 stitches left section. And one thing that might come up if your number is larger than mine is that you might not be decreasing fast enough. So if that comes up, you can do 2 decreases on both sides if you feel like you need it, but just kind of like figure it out, keep holding it up to yourself, seeing how it's fitting. There's no like perfect way to do it, it just matters that it fits to your own body. So now that I have my 50 stitches, I'm going to chain 2 and turn my work. From now on, your chain 2s are going to count as stitches. So I'm not going to double crochet right here because this counts as a double crochet. What you're going to do is double crochet half of whatever your total number is. So since your first chain 2 counts as a stitch, you're going to double crochet half minus 1. So I have 50 total, so I'm going to double crochet 24 more times so that I reach 25 stitches total because that chain 2 is included. I'm going to do 24 more double crochets. So once you've done your half number, you just want to count it one more time just to making sure you're including those chain 2s in your count. So I have 25 stitches. What I'm going to do is chain 2, turn my work, and we're going to be alternating for the first rows which side our decrease is going to be on. On the first row, it's going to be on the inside, second row on the outside, back and forth. So this time we're going to do a decrease, yarning over, going into that second stitch, pulling through, yarning over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over, go through 3. Then you're going to double crochet the rest of the row like normal. And for these rows, we're going to go into our chains at the end of the row. Once you've double crocheted into that chain, you're going to chain 2 and turn your work. Now we're going to do the decrease on this side. So yarning over, going into that first stitch, pull through 2, into the next, pull through 2 and pull through 3. Now we're going to double crochet into every stitch like normal, including the chain at the end. And just remembering at the end of the row that we're going into every single double crochet, and we're also going to double crochet into the chain. Now we're moving on to rows where we're going to decrease on both sides. So chaining 2 and turning our work. Then we're going to immediately start with a decrease, double crochet the rest of the row except the last double crochet and the chains. So we should have 2 stitches left at the end of the row, but remembering that one of those stitches is going to be your chains from the last row. Okay, and now I'm going into my third to the last stitch. I'm going to make a decrease into that last double crochet and into that chain. And there we go. For these rows, you don't need to keep count, but you can if you want to. Basically, what you want to see is that your first and second rows have 1 less stitch than the one before it, and then the one after that has 2 less. So now we're chaining 2 and turning our work. And we're going to make our first decrease, double crocheting the entire rest of the row, except for that last double crochet and those chains, because we're going to make a decrease into those. Once that decrease is done, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. Doing our first decrease, double crocheting the rest of the way, going into the third to the last with a double crochet, and then with a double crochet decrease into those last 2. Chaining 2 and turning our work. And we're going to start with our decrease, double crochet the rest of the row, going into the third to the last, and then making my decrease. For this next row, we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and instead of only doing 1 decrease at the beginning of the row, we're going to do 2. So making that first one just like normal, and then we're going to make a second one. Double crocheting the rest of the row, except for our last 4 stitches, including the chain. And now we're going to do 2 decreases, and then chain 2 and turn our work. For this row, we're going to do 1 decrease at the beginning, double crochet the rest of the row, and then 1 decrease at the end. For the next row, we're going to do the same thing, chaining 2, turning, 1 decrease at the beginning and 1 at the end. So now I'm at a row where I have 7 stitches. So here, if you have more stitches in your base row than I do, you're just going to keep doing those decreases until you reach the 6 to 7 stitches left. And if you had less stitches than mine, you would have already skipped to this section once you reach 6 or 7 stitches left. And we're going to do 1 decrease, 1 double crochet, and then 1 decrease. For your second row, you're going to chain 2, do 1 decrease, and then do a double crochet into the chain. If you are not at that row yet, you're just going to keep doing your 1 decrease on the sides until you reach 7 or 6 stitches. Once you reach that, you're going to chain 2, decrease into the first, do 2 double crochets in the middle, and decrease into the last. Then you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and do 2 decreases. Then you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and now we're going to start doing our straps. So what I like to do for straps that have 3 double crochets is to technically only do 2 double crochets per row. So you're going to chain 2 at the beginning, double crochet into that middle one, double crochet into the last, and chain 2. Turn your work, and you're going to double crochet into that middle one, double crochet into the chain 2, and turn your work. And so you're just going to repeat this until the straps reach the length that you want them to. So this is going to tie around your neck in like a halter shape. So you just want to be able to reach long enough that you can tie it. And then you're done with your first half of the top section. And chain 1 and cut off the work. What I'm going to do next is the back ties. Just for convenience, we're going to go into that bottom row of those double crochets, tie on the yarn, and then I'm going to chain 50. So once you've reached whatever number you chained, it can be more or less than 50, but I would kind of recommend having 50 be your lowest, just so that you have a long enough tie. You're just going to chain 1 extra, cut off your work, and then pull it through like that and just tighten it so it makes a knot. Then I'm going to repeat that same thing with the tie on this side, going into that bottom of these double crochets, tying the yarn on, and then chaining 50 plus 1. I've done 50, so I'm going to do my extra one and cut it off and then pull it through. So now we are literally so close to being done with the top. All we need to do is replicate this over here. So for this first row, we're going to tie on our yarn at the top of this chain. So just going through there, pulling the yarn through and then tying it on. We're going to chain 2. And then double crochet that same amount that we had on this side. If you don't remember the number, just go back and count it, but it should be the half of this total number of double crochets. So my number is 25, this one counts as my first one, and I'm going to do 24 more. Okay, after those first stitches, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. We're going to do a decrease into this first one, and then do double crochets into every single stitch for the rest of the row. You don't do any more decreases in this row. Making sure that when we get to the end of the row, we're double crocheting into those last double crochets, but also into the chain itself. Then we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. And we're going to make a decrease into that first one. Then we're going to double crochet into every stitch for the rest of the row. You only have 1 decrease in this row. And again at the end of the row, going into the double crochet but also into the chain. Then we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. We're starting off with a decrease, but we're also ending with a decrease this row. So double crocheting into every stitch except the last double crochet and those chains, because we're going to double crochet, decrease into those last two. So again, at the end of this row, double crocheting into the second to last and decreasing into the last double crochet and into the chain. Then we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. And then we're going to repeat that same thing, doing 1 decrease at the beginning of the row and 1 decrease at the end of the row. And so now going into our last double crochet, or our second to last double crochet, and decreasing into the last double crochet and the chain. Then we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. And again, for this next row, we're going to do the same thing, 1 decrease at the beginning and 1 at the end, doing double crochets in the middle. So double crocheting into that second to last and decreasing into the last double crochet and into the chain. And for this next row, doing the same thing again, 1 decrease at the beginning and 1 at the end. And doing my decrease at the end with that last double crochet and the chains. For this next row, we're going to chain 2, turn our work, but instead of only doing 1 decrease at the beginning and end, we're going to do 2 decreases at the beginning and then 2 decreases at the end. Making sure we're doing normal double crochets in between them. So you should have 4 stitches left at the end. Do that first double crochet decrease and do that last double crochet decrease into the stitch and then into the chain. For the next row, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work. And now we're back to doing 1 decrease at the beginning and 1 decrease at the end. Doing our normal double crochets in between. Doing my decrease, and then chaining 2 and turning my work. Next row, chaining 2, turning our work, and 1 decrease at the beginning and 1 at the end. Chaining 2 and turning our work. And for this row as well, we're going to do 1 decrease in the beginning and 1 at the end. Chaining 2 and turning our work. So I made a mistake somewhere, but I can't figure out what it was. So if you have the same 7 stitches on this row that you should have, then you can just skip back to the time I put on the screen. If you somehow have 6 stitches like I do, then you can just do it this way. And we're gonna do 1 decrease, 1 double crochet, and then 1 decrease. For your second row, you're gonna chain 2, do 1 decrease, and then do a double crochet into the chain. So what I'm gonna do is do a decrease with 3 stitches, and then I'm going to do a normal decrease with 2 stitches, and then I'm going to turn my work. This is just so that I end up having that same number of stitches this row, just like I should, because for this next row we should chain 2, double crochet, and double crochet. And so now we're on our shop part, so we're chaining 2, turning, and doing 2 double crochets for all of these rows, making sure that your last double crochet in every single row is going into the chain from the previous row. And we're just going to repeat this until you reach the same number of rows as the other one. You can either count how many rows you did, or you can just pause every few rows and measure it up to make sure that you haven't passed the same number that you did on the other one. Okay, and after you've finished those strap rows, you just want to measure it up one last time to make sure that they're the same length. And there we go, we're good. We can chain 1 and cut off the work and pull through. And now we are completely done. This is all the yarn I had left, except for weaving in our ends. But I'm going to do that off camera, so if you don't know how to weave in your ends, you can just go to that ultimate beginner tutorial that I talked about, and I will show it in that one. I do also show it in my triangle top tutorial and in my tank top tutorial and in my headband tutorial. So if you want to look at one of those videos to figure out how to weave in your ends, just go ahead and do that. And then I will come back once I'm done. All right, now we are completely done now that I've weaved into my ends. I love how this top turned out. I honestly have not decided whether or not I'm going to sell it, but if I do sell it, it will be on my Depop first, so make sure to check that out. And I also have a ton of other crochet stuff on my Depop and my Etsy, so make sure to check that out if you're interested. If you have any questions or anything's confusing, make sure to let me know down below and I'll do my best to help. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!